Okay, we're talking about the defining features, the points of performance for the deadlift, or what's called the hip hinge. And so Corey's gonna start by getting in the setup position. Okay, in this position, we'll see a relatively vertical shin or a perpendicular shin to the floor, his hips coming back at an angle, and the torso actually being a little bit more horizontal or almost parallel to the ground. And so we'll go ahead and do 5 reps in this pattern. And what you'll see here is, again, the hips are moving backwards. The cue we like to think about, push in a drawer with your hips, or push the car door closed with your hips. Okay, and the shins are also staying vertical, which will bias and have them use a little bit more of the hamstrings or hips. Okay, the next variation we're going to show. Sometimes when we're learning to deadlift, that position can be difficult. So what we're actually going to do here is we're going to widen our stance. We're going to add a little bit more knee bend as we get down in that position. And for some individuals, that can be a little bit more comfortable position. So there, his torso is a little bit higher, the knees are a little bit more forward. And if we do 5 reps here, again, you can see that it might be even a shorter range of motion, but he's still doing a good job at moving the weight straight up and down and not letting it get too far out in front of his body, okay? So that is a variation that we often start with, but the points of performance there, vertical shin, torso coming forward slightly, and hips moving back behind myself, okay? The next variation that we're going to be using is the trap bar deadlift. And the trap bar is an interesting tool because it puts the weight right in our center of mass versus an implement sometimes being away from our center of mass. So when Corey gets set up here, you'll see that this is kind of a hybrid position, but he's still got a relatively vertical shin. The hips are back. The torso is slightly forward, biasing the tension on the back side of his body, his glutes, his hamstrings, and also his back. So we'll go ahead and do 5 reps here. So we can see here that the weight actually moves straight down. It's not getting too far out of his body. He initiates the movement by pushing his body backwards in space, which is going to leverage the backside muscles of his body. Okay? So that's a trap bar deadlift. And lastly, the barbell deadlift, very similar to all of our other movements. Again, the only other real change here is that the bar is now in front of our body, which will leverage different muscles because it's how it's positioned in our center of mass, okay? So Corey will go down again, relatively vertical shin, his body is slightly tilted forward, and again, we'll go ahead and perform 5 reps there, making sure the bar is staying close to the body, initiating the movement by pushing the hips back, okay? Hinge pattern, again, defined by relatively vertical shin, leveraging most of the muscles on the back side of the body, glutes and hamstrings, and also taking a bow as we initiate the movement, okay? These are the points of performance for the hip hinge or deadlift pattern.